Hope the sighting's okay. There is one thing I really hope people will be more aware of. Current issues are definitely hitting home for me once upon a time because of the quarantine. Whether there's actual calls, interventions, or anything happens, arrests, charges pressed, that's like a case-by-case basis, and I'm going to tell you actually 90% of that is not being intervened. The isolation that's happening with the quarantine because of the job losses that are happening, overall stress, the inability to just have space, go out and about, and live our lives normally. Quarantine, although it is the safest option we have to get through this pandemic, is also the most terrifying for victims. I've definitely experienced domestic violence. I've definitely experienced toxic relationships. And some of you may have heard that there's quite the surge in calls for domestic violence incidents. Why would I want to bring this up now? Well, because I've been there and I know how horrifying it is, and I know what it's like to have nothing, to be controlled in every aspect of control, to be completely isolated from any support system, to have phones broken, to be intimidated, to have your job threatened, to have your children threatened. There are so many ways in which the abusers in the abusive relationships calculate, control, manipulate, repeat cycle. There's so much going into it. There's also financial abuse. There's covert surveillance. There's gross invasion of privacy. There's literally like almost no way for these victims to even ask for help. And I want to talk about how important it is to not abandon your friends in these situations. I know you can't maybe physically be there for various reasons, but it takes so much for them to leave. It's not on you to make them leave or help them leave, but they need to believe that they deserve better. Like I said, I have two friends currently who are experiencing this on a day-to-day basis. They live together, which is somewhat comforting because they have each other to support each other. They have each other as witnesses. In some ways, it's also enabling at the same time because one will be fed up, get rid of the guy, and then the guy will weasel back and repeat cycle and, whatever. And there's a lot of toxicity around, but it's two amazing girls who just don't realize how much better that they deserve. I found a really great article, which I will probably reference and I will be citing down below in the description, so be sure to check that out because it was really eye-opening. I don't love the title, to be honest. It's a little victim blamey for me. I'm relating to two friends currently going through that. It kind of glosses over all kinds of toxicity, but I was a little triggered by the title, so if you can get past the title, there's a lot of really useful information in that article. Find an article, and I want to encourage my girlfriends that are going through this that, hey, I'm proud of you. You can do this. It's going to get better each day. Little tips to help them out. Like, hey, if he starts to weasel back or if you start to find yourself romanticizing, the good times, just go back, read all your texts, read all the times he told you, how he really felt. Think about what he would say and what he would do. Just stick to it. You deserve better. Allow yourself to have better, and better is you, not him. You don't need someone else. And if you want to date, cool, do your thing, be mindful, but just make it about you and find out at what point that you're letting these red flags fly and tolerate it, where the line is where you start tolerating bullshit. That's the only way you're going to fix it. And she goes, thank you for this. One of the girls goes, thank you so much for this. Some people, it's a pattern with me. It's been happening forever and ever. Some people think, I must like it. I'm really proud of you. Times when we are repeating cycles in unhappy relationships, we're trying to fix primary relationships in our lives. We're trying to prove a point that it wasn't us. We're trying to get that validation. A lot of people say, well, obviously I must like it if I always tolerate it and if I just let it happen and I go back. And I said, no, you don't like it. You don't want it. It's familiar. Our subconscious is a fucking bitch. And you know what our subconscious likes to do? Our subconscious and ego, two different things at play. But our subconscious more than the former. Our subconscious is trying to correct those primary relationships that we are not satisfied with, that we were not complete with, that we were not validated in, and we want to prove either that it wasn't us, or we want to please them, same personality type, and feel value that way. And it's never. So why would our brain or subconscious be like trying to make something right that's never worked before? Well, because it's just a natural desire, like to feel loved and validated by your parents or parental figures or whomever raised you. That's your foundation, and you want love, respect, and you want to make them proud. No matter what you say, you're programmed for that. You're programmed to please them. You're programmed to be encouraged by them. And when you don't get that, and a lot of times, like I talk about SEN, childhood emotional neglect, it is so covert, it is so quiet that like most people never realize that that was a thing for them. And they'll put their entire value, their entire self-esteem, their self-worth in other people. And it's like when they meet someone, they'll be enamored in them, they'll throw themselves at them. And then when it doesn't work out, they feel like destroyed, completely broken, like more than normal. Ultimate mindfuck on that whole situation is that, so we're attracting similar personality types with the same type of toxicity and rejection or unavailable or absentee from the original primary dynamic. And that is never going to be fulfilling. That's always not going to work out. That's always going to be a ton of work that's put into it. And you think, okay, I will fix them, I will validate them, and they will in turn eventually look into my problems, give a fuck, and, want to build me up too. But the thing is, you can't just fucking assume that people have the same intentions as you. Maybe you have integrity. Well, fuck, integrity doesn't mean the same thing to everybody. The word should mean what it means. But people be like, oh, real talk, or, trust me, honestly, people will fucking game you up with some bullshit ass word, childhood wounds or whatever, as you'll hear them often referred to as. It's still really hopeful that it could make it right. There's a lot of undeveloped emotions, emotional regularity, sense of self. There's a lot of stuff that can be completely stunted because that initial relationship in fundamental years wasn't there, or it wasn't sufficient, or that was lacking in some type of really important way that only in the last few years has really given enough attention to realize how important it is. Like, it wasn't that long ago where kids were seen and not heard. I'll hear people excusing being treated horribly for, oh, that was just that time. No, not everybody throughout history was like, okay, fuck kids, shut up kids. That's not everybody. And sometimes you realize how fucked up your damage is when you explain it to other people and you find yourself like maybe retract. Like, please don't be coming at me out of pocket with anomalies, because honey, I'm not talking about y'all. I'm talking about the general rule, okay? How this tends to play out. If you have completely come out the other side unscathed, undamaged, unbothered, and fucking a baddie, good for you, okay? You can just skip the video. And sometimes it's like not even the dynamics that we get on the receiving end as a kid. Sometimes it's the example we're seeing. There's a lot of stuff at play. So say you saw a lot of mistreatment from your parental figures or guardians, you're going to think that's also okay, that is tolerated. And you may not like it. You may be like, oh, this is horrible, but it's normal to you. Anything else, like respectful, may even make you uncomfortable because you're like, oh, when is he going to snap? But the worst part is just slowly becoming isolated, controlled, and worst case scenario, impossible danger of bodily harm at a drop of a hat. A lot of times people who have anxieties can come from overbearing, very strict parents, authoritarian parents, and they don't know when they're going to get in trouble or what they're going to be in trouble for, so they're always on edge. So they may be in a perfectly healthy relationship, or they may be in a relationship with someone with a normal attachment style, and I'm sorry for using the word normal again, and they just may be quiet and content, and the other person with an anxious avoidance style or an anxious attachment style may just be like worried that something's going to happen just because the other person's quiet, because that's a triggered, conditioned response. Like, there's all kinds of weird things going on that like we're so unaware of, and please believe that's happening, and friend on the outside and you're somewhat aware of this, or you put the two and two together, because a lot of times a victim will be so ashamed they won't like come out and say it. Like a lot of times you'll have to pry it out of them. That's pretty typical. Or there'll be just one too many bruises too frequently, and you call them out, and eventually maybe they own up to, you know, hey, yes, this is happening. I'm humiliated. I'm stuck. What do I do? Well, people can mean well. Friends can mean well. And of course you don't want to see your friend being hurt. But most people do not comprehend what is required to leave for good and never come back. A lot of times support systems will be completely isolated from them, severed entirely, bridges burned, or it may be due to triangulation, the controlling partner, or it may be the friend getting frustrated that they can't just leave already because they don't realize. One thing you have to understand is that to truly leave those situations, your friend or whatever, maybe you, have to be financially viable to not go back. You have to slowly move your belongings, because if you move all at once in front of them, if they see you, they have nothing to lose, and you are like 10 times more likely to be severely injured or even killed in that situation, because that person has nothing to lose anymore, so they don't give a fuck. My suggestion is a exit strategy game plan. Slowly take things that matter to you. Hey, hold my birth certificate. As the friend or someone trying to help someone out of this, take little things, put them away at times where their partner will not know. Slowly plan the escape route. Have money saved up. Have a place for them to go where the abusive partner, cannot find them. But what makes this really hard is oftentimes their jobs are sabotaged. Friends and family who are not in a relationship like that fail to understand is it's basically rebuilding your entire life, not just emotionally, but structurally from the ground up, everything. A lot of times you just take the basics and you have to start over. Well, if you start over, where are you going to go? How are you going to pay first and last? How are you going to feed yourself? Like, it's, you know what I mean? That shit costs money, and that's one thing that abusive people are aware of. They control your finances so you can't leave, and they break you down psychologically so you don't think you deserve better. They're well aware of what they're doing. They know. Sometimes if there's children or pets, for example, they will be threatened of harm or being taken away for good, and you can think, okay, well, I'll just get a restraining order. Look, this happened, and I have witnesses. Well, if he has a lot of money, he can get that thrown out, and then it doesn't matter. Yeah. So don't assume that the law is going to work for you. Don't assume. So as a friend or family member frustrated with your loved one who can't just leave, unless you're trying to like put them up for as long as necessary and hide them and feed them until they're on their feet, like don't get impatient with them. Don't abandon them. Don't leave them. That's exactly what the person hitting them wants. That's exactly what they want. They want them at their mercy. They want them desperate. They want them more broken. The more broken, the more pathetic, the better, because the less likely they are to leave. And that's what people don't understand, how insidious it is, how covert it is, and how deep-rooted it is. I just wish people would understand. And that is happening so much more now because of the quarantine. And just like I said, it's not being reported nearly as much as it's actually occurring. Maybe a little bit more because maybe neighbors are hearing people getting beat on. But trust me, someone could still beat the shit out of you quietly. Or you get hit more for crying. There's all kinds of ways to terrorize. Am I guilting friends and family for not taking in domestic violence victims? No, I'm not. I'm just saying, if you think that there's all these homeless shelters, women's shelters that will just put them up till the end of time, you're wrong. Try to get a bed, dude. You have no idea how much goes into it, and how many doors slam in their face, and how hopeless it is getting out. And the abusers know this. It doesn't matter how much money is thrown at domestic violence. How much actually goes to the fucking victims? Nothing. Trust me. And you know how easy it is to freaking lie, get weasel out of that, even with like profound injuries and proof. I'm sorry if I'm saying she. It could be anybody, guy, girl, doesn't matter. Please don't get it twisted on that. Unless someone's like clinging to life, okay, it could easily be thrown out by a halfway decent attorney. The justice system, society, welfare, or the government is going to save your loved one. Okay, sure. That worked really well for Nicole Brown Simpson, huh? Or many others. Aaron Hernandez's girl. There's so many horrific cases of this. If you know someone maybe going through this, find a way to communicate with them that's not going to get them in trouble, that's not going to get them caught up. If that's in fact happening, there has to be a game plan, and you have to be patient. You have to understand if it happens before they're ready and before it's properly executed and planned out, they're in that much more danger. So much more danger at that time when they're actually leaving, because their abuser has nothing to lose anymore. They need that person to control. They need that is for the support system to leave. And why is law enforcement not enough? Why are women's shelters not enough? Well, I'll tell you why. First of all, like I said, getting a bed's damn near impossible. And it's going to be even worse with the calls, numbers, and cases going up at this time. I did have a friend help me once. I showed up with just unbelievably massive bruises. Like the globe, like the earth part on the globe, there's the water. Like, I had bruises like that. Just massive, and the friend, was just like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening to you. I'm like, yeah, it's been happening for a while, and they take my phone, and they don't let me go anywhere, and I've been like a hostage for like a year, and like they honestly were just floored. And they had a living girlfriend, and I sensed like a lot of weird tension, and I just didn't feel welcome, and I felt judged. Found some refuge for a few days. My abuser at the time 100% called my bluff, knew I would be back, and was just waiting. Like, oh, it's about time you showed up. They didn't realize it was like a one-time grab and go, never look back. But like I said, I didn't feel welcome there. I still had other things to worry about. I had court documents for something going on. I had birth certificates. I had, clothes, like, and I wasn't being like petty or materialistic. It was like things that I couldn't afford to replace. I had my car. That was it. That was the only thing he couldn't take. But trust me, he tried many times. He would take keys, whatever. And my friend, who tried to help but didn't really understand what it takes to leave, when I had to go back, didn't understand and cut off contact with me for years. It out. We've made our peace with it. I'm not faulting my friend. Not one bit. That's not what this video is about. That is a typical reaction that people have because they just get frustrated. They seem like, okay, my friend is being abused. It's helpless. I'm over it. I don't want to get involved, because they don't understand, again, the dynamics, what it entails, and how truly complex it is. Trust me, by the time we're like, help us, we're way out of love. We're not thinking that they're going to change. We know better. We're trying to leave. We need help. And if we're not getting that help. And that's what I want people to really understand. So if you have someone coming to you saying that this is happening, do everything you can. If you cannot, you got to take care of you first, obviously, at the end of the day. But make sure that if they leave for good, and they don't have to turn back for any reason. That is the only hope. If you think people can't get restraining orders thrown out, run contrary to the public opinion on what's really going on. And the way my friend reacted, which, like I said, is very typical, is part of the reason why our loved ones who are being abused may never tell us in the first place. And we could get a call that they're dead one day. Not trying to guilt trip you, homie. We're good. Okay, we good. Don't worry if you're watching this video. No, but seriously, it's not funny, and it is a reality, especially with the isolation going on, the tension, the lack of personal space. I mean, it's like horrible times 100. Like, I could only imagine, and I really feel for my friends. And like I said, I'm here anytime you need me. I don't give a fuck what time it is. I'm not scared of anybody. I'm not gonna put myself in danger, but I've been through it. I've got out of it. I've survived. I'm okay. And I finally see that I deserve better, and I'm okay. I'm okay alone. And that's a really scary step to take.